And you guys are live.
Good morning and welcome to the Village of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for Friday, November 12th, 2021. We have the minutes from September 24th, 2021, and we have the October 2021 minutes. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Can I have a second?
Second. I second.
Okay, thanks, Philip. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have 6 determinations today. I don't think they're in order as per the agenda, but I'm just going to read what I have here. Okay. In the application of 50 East Hollow LLC, 50 East Hollow Road, Suffolk County Tax Map number 301-8-10-42 to permit accessory improvements on a parcel of land without a principal residence is approved. May I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Thank you. Pam, can you poll the board?
Mr. McGurk,
Yes.
Mr. McMullen,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell,
Yes.
Mr. Rose,
Yes.
Ms. Doyle.
Yes.
All right, now the second determination in the application of OVA LLC, 9 Hither Lane, Suffolk County Tax Map number 301-4-8-4.4 to relocate and make alterations to an existing residence is approved. May I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Second.
Pam, can you please poll the board?
Mr. McGurk,
Yes.
Mr. McMullen,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell,
Yes.
Mr. Rose,
Yes.
Ms. Doyle.
Yes.
All right, moving right along here in the application of Bayberry Clothes Corp., 92 Ocean Avenue, Suffolk County Tax Map number 13-20-3 to construct a pergola is approved. May I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Thank you. Pam, can you please poll the board?
Mr. McGurk,
Yes.
Mr. McMullen,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell,
Yes.
Mr. Rose,
Yes.
Ms. Doyle.
Yes.
All right, in the application of the Ball Ridge Revocable Trust, 15 Mill Hill Lane, Suffolk County Tax Map number 8-7-33.18 to make an alterations and construct additions to an existing residence is approved. May I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, Pam, can you please poll the board?
Mr. McGurk,
Yes.
Mr. McMullen,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell,
Yes.
Ms. Doyle.
Yes.
All right, we're second to last here. In the application of 234 Cove Hollow LLC, 234 Cove Hollow Road, Suffolk County Tax Map number 12-3-4 to legalize coverage and a patio is approved. May I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, Pam, can you please poll the board?
Mr. McGurk,
Yes.
Mr. McMullen,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell,
Yes.
Ms. Doyle,
Yes.
Mr. Barris.
Yes.
All right, and this is the last one. In the application of Lisa and Gary Seff, 43 Mill Hill Lane, Suffolk County Tax Map number 8-7-18 to construct additions to an existing residence and to make alterations to an accessory building are approved. May I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Second.
Pam, can you please poll the board?
Mr. McGurk,
Yes.
Mr. McMullen,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell,
Yes.
Ms. Doyle,
Yes.
Mr. Barris.
Yes.
Okay, moving right along, we have 2 adjournments to December 10th, 2021. 23 East Dune Lane LLC and East Dune Lane Corp. We don't need a motion or anything, Pam, right?
No, I don't think so.
And we have this, okay. And now we have the continued hearing for 34 Darby Lane. Mr. Ackerman?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have the letter of Bob Hefner, which I think is very helpful. I'd ask the board to close the hearing and, proceed to a vote.
Okay. I think, does anybody have any comments on the board, please?
Yeah, I do. Question in terms of, at the last hearing, I asked a question about the capacity to move the extension in several feet in a way that didn't interfere with the lawn or anything else. It just seemed it could pull, I guess it's further to the south in a way that didn't disrupt the plans. Has there been any examination of that?
Well, I don't have,
I can
Are we-
answer that question.
all right, Linda, go on.
If that were done, you wouldn't have the interior longitudinal sight lines on which the house is organized. So the architect did not think that that would be an appropriate way to proceed. In other words,
Sorry.
no, we don't have a drawing, but the architect. The other thing was that the perception of the bulk of the addition would be changed if it was not in the same plane that it currently is. It would look bigger.
Anybody else have any comments on this?
I have a question regarding Mr. Hefner's letter. In the last paragraph, as the applicant has presented this property as a kind of a historic portion of East Hampton with the pool house and pool and stuff like that, would the client be willing to designate it as a historic landmark in order to preserve parts of this properties and the vistas if this application was granted?
Great.
Well, may I speak to that?
Yes, go on, Linda.
On whether or not a property would be designated historic would be the decision of the village board, not the decision of the applicant. In addition, I've looked at the designations that the village has done with respect to, the village has designated historic districts, and there's only one single property where the village has designated a single property. I'm not able to tell from that designation if it's even possible to designate only one structure on a lot, not the entire lot. You'd have to speak with the village attorney about that.
Benny?
I do think, Mr. Chairman McGurk, that it would be inappropriate to condition that upon the applicant's
I'd like to hear from Benny.
Sure.
designating a
So,
historic property because it's not within the applicant's control.
right. So, first of all, Ms. Margolin is right. Yeah, merely an applicant saying that they want to designate it as historic doesn't make it so. It does take the action of the village board. More important than that, I think, for the purposes of our discussion here, is that that's not a condition that the board can impose because, again, it's not controlled solely by the applicant. It's not like saying move this 3 feet or something like that. And they've come in for an area variance. There are criteria for that area variance, and either they've met them or they haven't. But I don't believe there's any authority which would allow us to condition the grant of a variance upon the designation by the village board as a historic structure.
I know, I'm going to say,
What?
Mr. Goldstein, please mute yourself.
Yeah, please mute. Thank you. Any other comments from the board?
I just say that in the absence of any demonstration of why it's problematic to move the preponderance of the extension into a conforming location with that, which other than just the assertion by an attorney regarding an architect's conclusion, I don't find the case compelling.
Okay. Jimmy? Philip?
I don't really have an issue with this, I do have an issue kind of looking forward and seeing where this property is going later on. I'm just concerned about how this property is going to age with all these changes that they're doing.
Okay.
Well, Mr. McMullen, if in fact, in any proposed decision, I think we can express that concern, and I'll happily do that for your review.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
let's not forget there may be callers on the line too.
Okay. Are there, Philip, let's get the callers first. Is there any callers on the line for this?
Yes, let me put the first caller through.
Good morning.
Caller ending with 5901. You're on the line.
Good morning. Okay.
Any comments?
You're on the
Yeah.
line?
Just listening, no comments.
Okay, sounds
Thank you.
good. That's all the callers.
Okay, Philip? All right. We have a motion I have a motion to close the hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. That's it, right? Pam?
Determination at the next meeting?
Thank you.
Okay.
So we can move on to the hearings. The first hearing of the day is, Pam, can you please?
Sure. Application of Howard Kurz and Nancy L. Kurz, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-1274 for variances from Chapter 278 zoning and Chapter 163 freshwater wetlands to legalize swimming pool equipment and an outdoor shower. A wetlands permit is requested in accordance with Sections 163.2 and 163.3, and variances of approximately 75 feet and 103 feet are requested from Section 278.388 to legalize swimming pool equipment located approximately 75 feet from wetlands and an outdoor shower located approximately 47 feet from wetlands where the required setbacks are 150 feet. A 17.7-foot variance is requested from Section 278.385C to legalize swimming pool equipment located 22.3 feet from the rear yard lot line where the required setback is 40 feet. A 2.2-foot variance is requested from Section 278.385B to legalize an outdoor shower located 17.8 feet from the rear yard lot line where the required setback is 20 feet and any other relief necessary. The subject property is 62,202 square feet in area and is located at 5 Jones Road in Residence District R160. This project may require a wetlands permit from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and is classified as a Type 2 action in accordance with SEQA.
Thank you, Pam. Is the applicant or his representative here?
We are our own representatives here.
Mr. Kurz, I have to swear you in.
Okay.
So please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Howard Allen Kurz. My address up there is
That's fine.
166 Lily Palm Lane in East Hampton, New York, 5 Jones Road.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I start?
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Mr. Kerr.
okay, thank you. So just by way of background, we've been East Hampton Village residents for about 30 years. We bought an existing sort of turn of the century classic East Hampton cottage house, which we went to great pains to keep in the shape that it's in, not changing any of the exterior. We actually lifted the house up into the air so we could build a more stable concrete foundation for the house many years ago. As far as we know, with regard to the pool equipment, I guess first, the swimming pool and the equipment have been there probably 50 plus years. We haven't, needless to say, have not moved the swimming pool. To the best of my knowledge, we have not moved the pool equipment. It's always been to the east side of the pool. I noted that it said that it was moved farther east, which is actually farther from the wetlands, and slightly north. I have no recollection of doing that. We never filed to do that. We never hired anyone to do that. Again, it's entirely possible, but I certainly don't know that we've ever done that. The pool is designed actually to stay filled, like most swimming pools now. The pool is never emptied. It's just been winterized and it's full of water. There's no discharge from the pool. In the 30 years we've been there, it's only been emptied once. And that was to re-marble dust the pool about 7 years ago. To that end, we had a drain and dry well installed to the east of the pool. And when the guy actually installed that, I remember her saying, "This is the best place you should drain your pool if you ever drain it." It's due east of the pool, closer to the driveway. And it's actually farther from the wetlands. So we were hoping that, one, given that we never drained the pool and there is an existing dry well for that we could get the variance for that.
Okay. Thank you. Billy, do you want to make a comment on this?
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Yeah, I had prepared a very brief report to the board and suggested there's evidence in the village files, the date is not clear, but that the pool equipment was next to the pool house at one point in time. Perhaps it was moved. I can't say when, but it does show that it was next to directly next to the pool house. And the code requires a discharge device, a drainage structure. So it makes sense that if you move the pool equipment, either moved the dry well or did not put one in. So as long as they can demonstrate to the satisfaction of the building inspector that there is a dry well for it, that's fine. If there isn't, then I would just suggest that they install one.
Okay.
In a direction further away from the wetlands. That's all.
Yeah, it is further away from the wetlands. Exactly, Bill.
Yep. And the same recommendation exists for the shower, outdoor shower. I think it's pretty standard construction practices to put a dry well in beneath an outdoor shower, but if none exists to the satisfaction of the building inspector, I think it makes sense that they be required to install one simply due to its proximity to wetlands.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Is there any objection? Is there any objection to that, Mr. Kurz?
Well, on the issue of the shower, if I just, say something. This is a brass tube with a shower head that's appended to the pool house. It's on the flat part. It's not on the part that slopes down towards wetlands. Again, it's been there for 15 years. It's out of sight. There's no soap. There's no shampoo or anything. It's not used as a shower to bathe in. It's just to rinse off from the swimming pool. It's probably used 4 or 5 times a year, if that. It's built on a wood slotted platform that drains down into a gravel bed below it. There's no runoff for it. There's no pooling or anything. When it rains and like some of the nor'easters we've had, you get far more runoff than you would ever from this shower. We've been very respectful of the wetlands. In fact, if anything, we have never cut it back. It's probably encroached on our property. As you know, we have a flag lot that goes back, and I understand the request, but this is something that's really not much more than a hose bib, except it has like a wooden base in the side to it. So I would respectfully request a variance to not have to do that if it's possible, but I understand Billy's point.
Is there any callers on the line?
There are no callers on the line.
Thank you. Board members, would you like to weigh in on this? Philip?
I have a concern about the shower being close to the wetlands. I understand that the current owners are very respectful, but once it becomes permitted without a dry well, it becomes an issue if the subsequent owners use that shower heavily. So I would request that either the dry well, a dry well be installed away from the wetlands, or that the shower be moved. And since it's just a brass tube, it sounds like it could be moved fairly easily. Those are my comments.
So just so I have it straight, you want to incorporate then essentially the terms of Mr. Hajak's memo into any proposed decision, right?
Yes.
I concur with that.
Oh, I thought you were asking me.
Mr. Chair, I concur with both those comments, incorporating Billy's conditions into any determination.
Okay. So I think the board's going to want you to put a dry well in or by the outside shower, Mr. Kurz.
Okay.
Or move the shower.
Or
I
move the
understand.
shower. Okay. All right. So I have a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So Pam, can you please read we're going to read the next 4 notices together because they're all kind of one application.
Right. Applications of Cove Hollow Holdings LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map numbers 301, 1563, and 1564, and Peconic Land Trust, Inc., Suffolk County Tax Map numbers 301, 12, 10, 1, and 1565 for area variances from Chapter 278 zoning and a freshwater wetlands permit in accordance with Chapter 163 of the Village Code for the removal of Phragmites. A variance is required from Section 278.3A8 and a wetlands permit in accordance with Section 163.3 to remove Phragmites from wetlands and adjacent areas primarily by mechanical machinery and secondarily by cutting with handheld equipment when the removal of vegetation by mechanical means is prohibited and any other relief necessary. The subject properties are contiguous and range in size from 118,890 square feet to 103,193 square feet. All are situate in Residence District R160 and all front on George Capon. The properties are located at 3 Chauncey Close, 63 Cove Hollow Farm Road, 53 Cove Hollow Farm Road, and 59 Cove Hollow Farm Road. This project requires approval of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and the East Hampton Town Trustees. The property is classified as an unlisted action in accordance with SEQA.
Thank you, Pam. Is the applicant present?
Bruce Horwath here on behalf of the applicants, 2 applicants.
Bruce, let me swear you in.
Right.
Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Bruce Horwath, 16 Salt Marsh Path.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Bruce, please.
Thank you. Good morning. This project, well, I guess I should start off by asking whether or not, Jody, do I need to do anything additional in terms of sharing the screen or?
No,
same
as before.
Can you folks see this at this point?
I cannot.
Not yet.
No.
No?
Try again. It worked just earlier. There we go.
There we go.
That's good. Now you can see it and I can't. Okay, hold on a second. There we go. Well, you're going to get 2 slides at once, but I guess that's fine.
That's fine.
This project is to restore the shoreline of 4 adjoining properties by reducing the abundance of Phragmites and other non-native invasive species and increasing the abundance of the native vegetation. The 4 parcels are, you can see on the map, the side, the 4 parcels are adjacent, 53, 59, and 63 are all on Chauncey Close, and then, on Cove Hollow Farm Road, and then 3 Chauncey Close. The 2 northern properties are owned by one applicant. The to southern properties owned by a different applicant. The project is going to be managed sort of holistically as one project. The Peconic Land Trust is going to take the lead in terms of doing the management. These properties share a similar ecology, and they also share similar land use history. In terms of the upland portion of it, they all contain sort of an old field mixture of pasture grasses, asters, goldenrods, and some bayberry shrubs and a few trees. But then as you get landward of the water, there's approximately a 15-foot wide band of monocultural Phragmites along the entire shore. And that's really the area that we're going to be focusing on. This project is primarily Phragmites control. The other non-native invasive that we're talking about is something called Miscanthus or Chinese silverweed. And that's more upland, although there may be one or two plants down closer to the water, they're basically upland. In terms of the methodology, there's been a little bit of change. I mean, we're talking about cutting the Phragmites to grade repeatedly over 5 years, but instead of using the riding mower that we had thought would be doing most of the work, we're substituting a walk-behind mower. And we came to this decision after some discussions with Billy Hayjack. He may want to weigh in on that in a couple minutes. We're going to be supplementing what we can't do by machine using handheld weed trimmers. And again, just in terms of methodology, this is sort of, I haven't come before this board before. I have several projects that are ongoing for Phragmites control within the village, but I think I haven't been before the current board. The way we approach it is to do that first cut pretty much any time of year because you're primarily just removing the above ground biomass. It can be done dead winter, it really doesn't matter. In terms of weakening the Phragmites, you want to do the cuts during the growing season. So typically you do the first one in early June, and then July, August, and early October, depending on how strong, how active a growing season there is. And by cutting the Phragmites, you're trying to weaken the plants by not allowing them to produce food and replenish their below ground food reserves. And eventually that should weaken the plants. This isn't the type of Phragmites control that's ever 100% effective, or at least rarely, but you can weaken it and manage Phragmites and allow the native vegetation to increase in abundance. The other advantage of cutting Phragmites is that, and there's something recently done by Friends of Georgia Capon in their newsletter, it talks about the fact that Phragmites is pretty good at bringing in nutrients, particularly nitrogen and phosphorus. And if you continually harvest the nutrients that are being taken out of the pond, these are excess nutrients that are in the pond. And if you remove those Phragmites from the site, then you're improving the water quality of the pond as well. There is very little native vegetation within those Phragmites stands, but what is there will be protected at all times. And in order to ensure that there isn't bare ground to the extent that we're controlling the Phragmites successfully, at the end of the last treatment year, there'll be a minimum of 95% of the treatment area will be covered with native species. They'll either be naturally regrowing or from the seed bank, or we will plant them using nursery stock. The candidate native species are ones that have been found around George Capon: soft stem bulrush, tussock sedge, soft rush, some blue flag, and rose mallow. These are all native wetland plants. I have two or three photos showing what the area looks like. The photo that you're seeing on the left is for the junction, shows the property boundary between 53 and 59 Cove Hollow Farm Road. And this is an area where instead of having a sharp embankment of about 5 feet where the upland area just drops abruptly down to the pond, this is an area where there's almost a tongue or a cove where there's low-lying land that comes from the pond up into the upland a little bit. And this is an area that's easy to use machinery, we believe, and it's pretty much just dense Phragmites with an occasional plant, something like bayberry or groundsel, which we can mow around. And here's a shot of more typical shoreline where it shows that steeper drop down to the pond. And that's pretty much it. I'm available for any questions you may have.
I'd like to go to Billy Hayjack next, if we could. Billy, are you with us?
Yes. Again, good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Billy Hajak for the Village of East Hampton. So I've communicated with staff of the Peconic Land Trust and with Bruce, and they've agreed to use handheld equipment and a walk-behind type mower. The village code allows for a multi-year Phragmites removal permit without the use of heavy machinery. So if they wanted to use heavy machinery, it would have to be an annual approval process. And so one benefit of using, a sort of a walk-behind mower, while it may be a little bit more labor-intensive for them, is that they can do it over a course of multiple years, provided they're in compliance with the permit conditions. Secondly, when I visited the site, the shoreline, there's a pretty steep embankment along the shoreline parts that I walked. And, I think most of that is going to have to be done by hand regardless. And the area where there's a rather large stand of Phragmites is a wetland area. It's kind of a sponge, and the soils are very moist. And I don't, as best I can recollect from looking at old aerials, I don't think that area was ever farmed, the wetland portion of it. So I just don't think it's appropriate to be driving heavy machinery through that portion of the property. So aside from that, I have no other issues. I did distribute an email to Pam and to the chairman, and I do have some suggested conditions, which are typical of projects like this.
You want to read that email?
Notify the village prior to start and when they finish, and submission of an annual report. And then also, just in terms of removal of other vegetation, I would ask that they be required to tag it for an inspection before it's removed, because the removing of other vegetation on other projects has gotten, it's gotten a little out of hand. I would just leave it at that. Other stuff has been removed where it was purportedly just to be, non-native. So.
And can I make a comment here? Bruce, you did say it was going to be a 5-year project. This approval is valid for 4 years, right, Billy?
Yeah, the code says a 4-year approval process. That's what our code says. So I think the DEC issues, when they approve it, they issue a 5-year permit. I think that's why it might be factored as a 5-year plan, but our code says 4 years. So at the end of 4 years, if we can reevaluate the success of the project at that point.
And that was contained in the conditions in your email today, right, Bill?
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Any board members have any issues?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask how the trustees, did the trustees weigh in on this?
I have to get, right. I need to get permits from the trustees and from the state. I've given both applications. The trustees did not have an issue when I presented to them, but they don't make it. They are holding back on all decisions for the Phragmites work or wetlands work until they hear from the town or village and the state. So in other words, they didn't seem to be opposed to any of it. In fact, that they were okay with the large machinery, but I agree with Billy's points, and there's no reason not to use the lighter equipment.
So you're saying that they want to be the last approval, in other words, right?
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
But I can send copies, obviously, from all 3 agencies to all 3 agencies once I get those permits.
Thank you. Mr. Rose?
I have just a couple of questions. I'm completely sympathetic, but can you just explain, the Phragmites are not native? Or where do the Phragmites fit into, in general, into the natural landscape? Are they always intended to be removed, and are they non-native, or how do they interact with the rest of the natural vegetation? I'm not sure if it's Billy or Bruce.
Phil, you want to stab? You want me to do it?
Go for it, Bruce.
In the abbreviated version.
Abbreviated, yes. Sure. The abbreviated version is that they're not doing very well in Europe where they started, but they came over to the United States somewhere around a different genotype, came to the United States somewhere in the mid-1800s, as far as anybody knows. And it took off in this area, anecdotally, and also some photos show somewhere in the mid-1900s. So we have areas now that are covered, areas of shoreline that are covered with a genotype of plant that never occurred here. There are no native predators of it. It's displacing our native plant biodiversity as well as impacting the flora and the fauna as well. So it's not native to our area. That's why it's being considered, not natural as compared to the native vegetation that we're trying to replace it with.
Understood. And then, thank you.
Sure.
Then the other question is, and I guess this is to Tom, and it just ties into, not in this case, but where, especially with the Peconic Land Trust as a partner or the manager, it seems like a guaranteed way to have this be done as sensitively as possible. But how do we monitor? Is there any monitoring or enforcement in other cases where there are natural areas that need to be addressed, or environmentally sensitive things where people may not be as sensitive to the mechanics or the operations being done? Is there oversight and enforcement of this stuff?
Well,
was that from myself or Bill? I'm sorry.
For Tom, I guess, or Bill.
Thank you. Well, actually, we work together as far as observations go. Pretty much this isn't my area of expertise, although I do know the code well. I defer to Billy in most of these instances.
Yeah, so I can elaborate on Tom's point. So I try to do, usually when Phragmites gets cut, as Bruce said, is in the summertime, the growing season, or just before the growing season. So I try to remain aware and do periodic inspections throughout the village to see if Phragmites is being cut without the necessary approvals. And then we also ensure if folks do get permits or these multi-year permits, we follow up to ensure that they're in compliance with the conditions. And we do have situations of folks asking for retroactive approval or, corrections, I should say, to where they've cut Phragmites where they didn't have prior approval. And in that sense, the town trustees, we have a pretty good relationship with the town trustees, and we've notified them and they've notified us of situations of Phragmites cuttings where property owners don't have the requisite permits. So we have some checks and balances in place, but we have to be careful. We don't have permission to enter property, all the time. So not unless they have an application pending. So it's more of a, line of sight issue. We have to see them and witness it happening.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Billy. So do we have a motion to close this hearing?
So moved.
Make a motion.
Okay, how about us make second? Thank you. We'll have a determination. We have to wait for Billy, do we have to wait for the trustees and the DEC to weigh in before we get a determination or no?
Nope. No, you remember your decision.
Yep, got it. Okay. All right, Pam, this is the last hearing of the day.
Yep.
Thank you.
Application of Michael Kretschmar and Chuck Thomas, Sub-County Tax Map Number 301-1129 for area variances from Chapter 278 zoning to make alterations to an accessory building and convert to pool house, install swimming pool equipment, and construct additions to an existing residence. Variances of 13.3 feet and 10.2 feet are required from Section 278-385C to make alterations to an accessory building previously approved by the zoning board as a writer studio, to be located 6.7 feet from the rear yard lot line and 9.8 feet from the side yard lot line, where the required setbacks for a pool house are 20 feet. A 5-foot variance is requested from Section 278-385C to install swimming pool equipment 15 feet from the side yard lot line, where the required setback is 20 feet. A 72 square foot variance is requested from Section 278-3A13 to construct additions resulting in a residence containing 1,947 square feet of gross floor area, with a maximum gross floor area is 1,875 square feet. A 62 square foot variance is requested from Section 278-3A9 to permit 2,312 square feet of coverage, where the maximum permitted coverage is 2,250 square feet, and any other relief necessary. The subject property is 8,753 square feet in area and is located at 35 McGurk Street in Residence District R40. This project is classified as a Type 2 action in accordance with SEQA.
Jonathan?
Can I just state that I'm I'm recusing myself, and I believe another member is stepping in.
Yes, Andy Barris is going to step in.
Good morning, Andy. Jonathan?
Hi, good morning. John Tarbett for the applicant. Can you hear me okay?
Very well.
Okay, great. So the only thing I would correct on the notice is that I would say mostly at a suggestion of Billy Hayjack, we removed the need for a coverage variance by making the pool smaller. So there is no longer, and that survey was submitted. So there's no longer a requested coverage variance. As far as the other three variances go, it's probably easier just to tackle them one by one. And I'm going to try to share my screen. Let's see. Are you seeing the pool house diagram?
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay. So just close this one. So in 1995, the then owner of the property got a variance to put a writer studio on the property. And that writer studio was granted a variance by this board to be essentially on the property line. That property line is the rear property line that is shared with Jack and Lean Forest, who did oppose the application. The goal of this current application is to actually remove everything you see with red hatching. So it would make the existing writer studio, or what we want to use it for, as a pool house. And it's important to note that the difference between a writer studio and a pool house, there is no difference at this point, because a writer studio had a bathroom and the pool house will have a bathroom. So you could continue to call it a writer studio or a pool house. It wouldn't change the internal layout of this building. But the goal here is to do a few things. One is to make it smaller. So removing all that area with the red hatching. That will mostly allow us to plant vegetation between the property line, between us and the forest, to provide more privacy for both of us. It also has a couple effects. One is that the existing studio is legal because of the variance, but it's actually, with a bathroom in it, it's non-conforming. So rather than being pre-existing non-conforming, it's legally non-conforming in size. A pool house can only be 250 square feet. So by removing that red crosshatch area, we make the distance from the property line better. We go from 1 foot or less to 6.7 feet. We eliminate a non-conformity, which is a accessory structure with a bathroom bigger than 250 square feet. And at Billy Hayjack's suggestion, we have removed any insulation from. Right now, the structure has insulation, and we're proposing to remove that insulation. We have the support of 3 neighbors: Terry Roush on one side, John Gearing on the other, and across the street, the neighbor also supports the application. Jack and Helene Forrest have opposed the application. It's objectively sort of hard to understand why they would object to a structure being moved further from their property line, being made smaller, removing insulation, and of course the insulation leads it to be used for things that the code prohibits, and making it smaller. So my best I did try to reach out to Jack and Helene. They chose not to speak to me about the application, but in reading their opposition, it appears as though they think that the 1995 variance was to that owner and didn't run with the land. So they think that the existing structure, and this is just my best guess on reading their letter. Again, they wouldn't speak to me about it, but I think what they think is that once Walter Bobby, who owned the property in 1995, sold it, that it had to go back to being used only for storage, and that this variance will somehow allow it to be used for pool house or writer studio. And of course, that's wrong. The 1995 variance runs with the land. So that's my best understanding of why they would oppose it, because otherwise it doesn't really make any sense. Again, we want to increase the vegetation between the property and the structure, make it smaller, increase the setback, remove the insulation. So I don't really have another reason for why they would oppose it.
What's the height of the roof of the current structure?
I don't have the exact number. It's less than 14 feet, which is the height which is allowed for accessory structures. And the proposed structure is also less than 14 feet. I know that the 1995 variance approved it at around 13, and we're coming close. And we're coming close to. I didn't measure the height, but I know that you can look back at the 1995 variance, which was 13 feet something, and we are under 14 feet proposed.
I mean, my comment is in 1995, there was a much smaller house on the lot than there is now. So, but let's keep going. Let's keep going through the variance here.
If there's no more questions, I'll move on to the next variance. The house that's on the property now is conforming in size. So that was it for the the requested variance for the pool house. The next requested variance, and we'll see if I can still share this.
Can I just, before we leave the pool house issue, can I just request that we get specific dimensions in terms of height?
They're on the survey. I can pull the survey up. We can look at it together. We did submit, not survey, we did submit plans.
If you'd like, I can just, so the plans that are submitted with the application show the proposed new pool house at a height of 14 feet. And there you go. You just passed them. And the existing structure is 10 feet, 9 3/4, I think was the height.
Right. There is a variance in place from 1995.
9 5/8. So it's about 11 feet high. Existing, just under 11 feet, and proposal is 14.
Thank you.
Okay. There's no more questions on that. I'll move on to the next request. I'm going to pull up the survey for that. So
we're going to come back and comment on this. We just want you to do the whole application, and then we'll.
No problem.
Thank you.
So I think you should be seeing the survey now, hopefully.
Yes.
Okay, great. So the next request is for the pool equipment, which you'll see it's shown in the survey as 15.1 feet from the property line. And it would be, what's on the north side of the house. That's the property line that's shared with John Gearing. And he has not opposed the application, actually supports the application. Let me go back to this. Sorry.
So just stop there for a second. Go back to
Sure. The last one? This?
Yeah.
Okay.
You've got your landscaping is in, if you look at the front, it's in the village setback there.
Oh, in the front of the property?
Yeah.
On McGurk Street?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that would be prohibited then. I guess I think actually in the past we have requested permission from the highway superintendent, who has given. He may not hear, but in the past he has approved vegetation in the right of way.
Thank you.
Well, I was looking for something else, but I'll go back to the survey. So what's important to note on the survey is, here we go. This is what I was looking for. So this is just this is actually Gearing. So the requested variance is from the Gearing property. And I thought it'd be helpful to show just how the two properties relate to each other. You'll see that the Gearing does have pre-existing non-conforming pool equipment in the back, the south corner there. Our equipment is proposed as shown. Again, all the affected neighbors support it. Presumptively, Forest would oppose it. The interesting thing to note is the conforming location for the pool equipment. I don't know if you can see my cursor, would be 20 feet off the property line. The only other place we could put it would be behind the pool, so it'd be between us and Jack Forest. It's a conforming location, but of course it has big disadvantages. One would be that it is closer to the forest property. Two would be it's essentially in the middle of the property. The other advantage to where we're putting it is, apologize, sharing is not my best thing here on the, here we go, great. So you can see that what we're doing is we're proposing to put it within a sound attenuating fence. And then also the pool equipment itself has a sound deadening cover. Obviously the homeowner on our property has the exact same concerns as neighbors. We don't want to hear this equipment or see it. behind the pool forces, it's a small property, and putting it in a conforming location behind the pool forces us to stare at it, and it makes it harder to deaden the sound. So we think it's a win for us, but also a win for the neighbors to put it up where the AC equipment is and just enclose it all in this sound deadening equipment. No one has to see it, and hopefully it's the quietest location on the property for it. The third requested variance is a small 72 square foot gross floor area variance. And that variance is mostly being driven by the need or the desire to redo the staircase from the first floor to the second floor. We have submitted a letter dated September 27th from the architect explaining all the reasons why the existing staircase is not compliant with New York State code. There are a number of reasons. It's actually a reason when the applicant bought this property, was the original reason for why it failed the updated CO requirement was the staircase itself. So with the original architectural desire being to redesign the staircase to be safer, and it's not just a New York State building code issue, it's just an issue of home ownership. The staircase is very steep, and it has some weird design characteristics to it that you would never put into a home today. So the 72 square foot variance is driven almost entirely by the desire to relay out that staircase. I have asked Chris, who I believe is on the call, who is the architect, to maybe go into that a little further. Chris, are you able to jump on?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Great. I can hear you.
You guys hear me? Great. So
Wait. Let me swear you in.
Okay.
Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Christopher Powers, 35 Vista Court, Riverhead, New York.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Hello, Chairman, board members. Thanks for seeing us today. I just wanted to extrapolate a little bit on the GFA. So like John was saying, the desire to move that staircase and make it code compliant really drove the addition to this house. The existing staircase was actually in the dining room, which made it impossible to walk around the dining room table. So we're just trying to increase the functionality, of the house for the owners. And after the last zoning board meeting, we looked at possible solutions of how to reduce the GFA into compliance. And from my understanding, the combination of lot coverage and GFA, one of the goals is to reduce the volumetric impact of structures on properties. And when we were looking at different solutions to reduce the GFA, all that we were finding is that it was reducing the aesthetics and proportions of the house and the functionality of the house, and was not affecting, reducing any volumetric aspects of the house. So that's why we determined to move forward, asking for the additional GFA to have better aesthetics of the house and also functionality for the owners.
Okay. Thank you.
Just one last thing I wanted to show you was GIS picture of the house, which is right here. In green shows the three neighbors who adjoin the property.
John, we're looking at the pool house drawing.
Yeah, I may not be able to make this work. It's fine.
Okay.
That's pretty much the. I think those are the three variances. They're all either an improvement or a relatively minor request.
Okay, thank you. Billy did write a report on this. Billy, do you have any comments on your report, or it's pretty self-explanatory to us?
It's self-explanatory. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. I would add the one, as Jonathan pointed out, the one item that is not addressed in my report that they've amended since I prepared it is the elimination of insulation, which makes it more conforming to the pool house requirements.
Okay, thank you. Are there any callers on the line?
No, there are no callers on the line.
Okay. So Jimmy, you're not on this. So would somebody like to go through the variances here with us on the board? Philip?
I have some questions.
Go ahead, Joe.
I just want to make sure I understand. The proposal involves, and I know it's not a subject of the application, but is moving the driveway from one side of the property to the other as part of the whole work on the site. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
All right, I was pulling the survey up. I'm not sure if you can see it, but that's the survey. And the new proposed driveway would be as shown.
Mr. Chairman, one caller just called in.
Okay.
Jody, let me know.
Can we let the caller on, please?
Sure. Caller ending with 0867, you're on.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yes.
Please state your name.
Good morning. Hi, my name is Jack Forrest. I live next door to the property that's looking for a variance.
Okay.
I have to swear you in.
Jack,
Let me swear you in. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
My name is John Forrest. I live at 176 Newtown Lane, East Hampton, New York.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Jack.
Okay, I'd like to start off by saying I've been designing and building houses in the town of East Hampton for over 40 years. I've always designed based on zoning regulations. And in my opinion, the reason why we do have zoning regulations is because we need to protect the surrounding properties from encroachments of neighbors onto it. Okay. I'd like to first say that, part of what John is saying, it's a minor, this is like a minor variance. I mean, it's supposed to be 20 feet off the rear property line, and it's only going to be 6. There's no doubt it's an improvement from what it was, but it's still, it's a noise issue that I have with this. I don't have an issue with anything other than noise. But I also want to point out is that, the application is saying that there's no other way of doing this, and that's incorrect. I mean, if you look at the survey and you look at the setbacks, you can easily design a pool, and if you want to jam a pool house onto an 8,700 square foot lot, you can jam a pool house on it and still conform to zoning. Okay. I also would like to point out that in the variance that was granted back in 1995, it states specifically that the variances are granted on the express condition that the shed be used as a writer's studio only. Okay? It didn't say the writer's studio can become a pool house. It's a writer's studio. It's a quiet application. A shed is a quiet application. All right. We already know how this building was used in the past because we have pictures from the original time this was submitted and then it was pulled out as far as how it was being used. It had a bed in it. It had coffee makers in it and other things. So why should I believe that it's going to be used any differently than that at this point? I also have a concern with saying that we have the building at 6 feet off. It's supposed to be 20 feet off. Is there going to be any mechanicals in this building? And where are they going to be located, and what's going to be doing anything to cut down on the noise on that? It's all a noise issue.
Okay.
So that's those are my concerns. And as I'm sorry that I have to be this way, but you know what? I need to protect my property also. I really feel that a lot of 8,700 square feet. If you want to jam all this on it, jam it on within the zoning. Don't jam it on my property line. Also, I want to point out that the trees that are shown on the rear, they're called out to be between 9 and 10 feet. They're showing them to be somewhere around 16 to 18 feet. There's really no privacy issue between the two. There's just a major noise issue between the two. I don't have any other comments unless anybody has any questions.
I think we're good.
Can I
Okay.
just address that very quickly?
Well, you're addressing us, not.
Yeah, I'm addressing you. That issue I meant. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Gross.
Thanks, Jack. So I think there's maybe a misunderstanding here. We're not asking to put a new structure on the property. We're asking to relocate the existing structure further from Jack's property line. With regard to it being approved originally as a writer studio, it was approved in 1995 with a bathroom in it. So honestly, I mean, the true use of it will be as a pool house, but it's not. We're not asking to install, for example, a bathroom in the structure. So you could call it a writer studio still. It wouldn't matter to us. I think if we were taking a structure that was called a writer studio without a bathroom and asking to convert it into a pool house and adding a bathroom, then that would be a very, very valid concern. However, the structure can be rebuilt under at least the new village code without any variances. So it's hard to fathom how making it smaller, removing the insulation, moving it farther from the property line, and adding vegetation doesn't improve the situation. And that's all I have to add.
Board members, Carrie, Andy, any comments?
I have a question. Philip.
Thanks, Philip.
So when you say it can be rebuilt under the current code, maybe Mr. Messina, you can weigh in on this also. It would be at the same height, same openings, same windows, same orientation, not additional sliding glass doors and at a higher.
It would have to be
higher. It'd have to be replicated, correct?
I can jump in first.
Go ahead, John.
Oh, so I think it's possible that Vinny and I may disagree on some of that, but I think part of it we definitely agree on. This is not a non-conforming structure. It's actually a structure that exists legally by virtue of a 1995 variance. So the part that we probably disagree on is that I think that once the variance was granted, it's a legal structure and the new setback is that 1 foot, and that I think we could actually rebuild it as long as we comply with all current zoning without any variances, including increasing it to 14 feet in height. The part that I think Vinny and I probably agree on is that there was a recent code change for the village, which applies to non-conforming structures. Again, we're actually conforming by virtue of variance, but assuming that we are considered by the village to be a non-conforming structure, the village code made it very clear that these can be rebuilt in their entirety, so long as you do not increase the degree of non-conformity. And so, for example, I think part of your question was windows and doors. Those could all be rebuilt however you wish under the recently passed village code amendment. Where I think we would run into a problem would be under what I think is Vinny's definition, which is that it's still a non-conforming building, and therefore to increase the height you would need a variance. So it's possible under Vinny's definition that what we need here is a height variance, as well as the variances to make it more conforming, which I guess actually under the new village code definitions, the fact that we're making all these other things more conforming shouldn't need a variance. So it gets a little confusing. Maybe Vinny can correct me.
Yeah, I mean, actually, it's Tom's determination in the first instance that matters, because your permit application would go to him. I do agree that once you've gotten a variance and you build in accordance with that variance, you're not non-conforming. Whether or not that, in essence, sets a de facto right to do anything under any circumstance, you're right. We probably disagree significantly on that. But if you would need, as to the requirement for a variance for height or anything else, I'd have to defer to Tom in the first instance, because he is the building official for the village.
So I'm going to jump in here. I don't have any problems with 72 square feet. I have no issues with the swimming pool equipment with the 15 feet from the property line. I don't want to see the pool house or the writer studio touched. I don't want to, I don't think we would. This is a small lot. It contains a lot of stuff. I personally don't want you to touch the writer studio. So
I concur with the chairman. I believe that the request for the change to the writer studio is substantial, even though there is some improvement. And based on it being a substantial variance, I think that the writer studio should be left as is. And I agree with regard to the pool equipment and the 72 square foot variance.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Rose.
So I have just a couple of questions, and as members of the board will know, I take the setback issues pretty seriously, and especially on a small lot that's adjacent to many other small lots. Question on the reference was made to support of the neighbors for the majority of the application, the variances being sought. Is there a public record to that effect? Mr. Charbot, I just want to.
So just quickly, there is the three neighbors, all of whom, so adjacent, there's three adjacent neighbors. Jack Forrest, who spoke, is opposed. He's directly behind the property. The adjacent side yard neighbors both support the application. They submitted letters, as well as the house directly across the street submitted a letter in support of the application.
Thank you. And then the question on the pool equipment, was there any exploration or any issue relating to the possibility of burying the pool equipment, putting it in a pit for noise purposes?
We did spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to make it best, again, because it, and potentially Chris may want to speak on this. We did have a few meetings on it, and that's how we came up with the fence around both that and the AC equipment that has a sound baffling curtain on it. And that's also how we came up with the, you can actually buy an insulated enclosure for pool equipment now to reduce the noise. So we've proposed both of those on our plans. I think, and I'm probably speaking out of expertise, not out of expertise here, but burying pool equipment comes with a few issues. One is just the release of the gases from the heater, as well as servicing. I know that it could be difficult in that area, which is a tight area, to get in and service it. Carissa, did I phrase that correctly?
Yeah, that sounds right. And I can't personally speak on the added sound deadening of burying it versus the enclosure and the kind of the equipment enclosure and then the sound deadening blankets. I couldn't attest to the difference in that.
We were worried about some vibration and bounce off structures. So if we buried it, we did. So I guess the short answer is we really did try to present it in a way that would benefit us the most, but also make it the most appealing to the board. And for reasons which either we are articulating or we're not, we came up with this as the best solution.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Andy.
What about mechanicals to the structure? And John, could you talk about, you said you're going to be removing insulation. Could you talk about specifically what you're going to be doing?
Chris, I'll give you a second to think about mechanicals as I speak to, the original, so this, as the board is probably aware, this application had come before you maybe 4 or 5 months ago, somewhat differently. When I took it on as a project, we spent, like we always do, a lot of time redesigning what we wanted and trying to eliminate any extra. So that's how we ended up coming up with the fact that right now the structure is 1 foot from the property line. We want to make it almost 7 feet. That's actually one of the, the way I came up with, which I thought was a huge benefit, although I'm hearing that 2 board members disagree at least, was that a pool house can only be, so this structure exists legally with a bathroom in it. And because of that, it most closely is defined as a pool house under the village code, because only a pool house can have a bathroom. Pool houses are limited to 250 square feet. So one of the initial things I did, and I also thought this would address some of Jack's concerns, was to make it smaller. So, and that was this diagram showing how we're essentially just eliminating a back portion of the, and for the life of me, I can't understand how anybody would object to eliminating a structure. But so the goal was to bring it back down under 250 square feet, which is the size. In the village, you can have a pool house, which is a structure with a bathroom, as long as it's less than 250 square feet. And that's how we came up with that. The part specifically you asked about insulation, I hadn't thought of that. If you go online now on the internet, when this house was sold to my clients, you can still see the listings. It called that a cottage. Who knows why? Maybe the brokers thought it was. My client certainly believed it was. Their closing attorney, who was not me, never told them otherwise. They actually would have found out on the updated CO process, except for the fact that the updated CO was denied for the staircase inside the house. So they held a very small escrow and thought that they would be able to get the CO by addressing the staircase issue. As they have now since come to find out, it's not a cottage. But because of Jack's concerns, which was that it would be lived in, and I think Billy Hayjack had the same concerns, he suggested that because the existing structure has insulation, it leads itself to being used certainly more as a cottage than as an open air pool house, which is what the current owners want to use it as. So it was Billy's suggestion that removing the insulation would make this, again, a better application. And we were happy to do that because, again, the current owners have no intention to use it illegally. To the extent that it was set up as a cottage, that was because that's how the brokers presented it, and no one told them otherwise.
And so, Andy, what's your feeling on this? I
don't really have a problem with I mean, it's already an erected structure, and you're making it smaller. So, as far as I'm concerned, I don't really have a problem with it.
Okay.
To be honest.
Carrie?
I have a question for you, Mr. Chairman. Why are you opposed to removing the back part of that cottage that they're suggesting?
I just think that this cottage sits back on that property. It's pretty low. It was an old garage at one time. The house that sat on the property was small. These are tiny lots. This is a lot going on this little piece of property, to be quite honest with you. So, when you take the mass and you make it higher for, 3 more feet, it's going to be pretty noticeable, especially to the back neighbor. And the back neighbor's worried about noise. So that's my reason on it.
So
I'd like to give everybody everything, but it's a tiny piece of property.
Right. And just as I understand, I want to be clear, the proposal is to take off that back part and raise the roof 3 feet. And take out insulation?
I think they're going to rebuild it.
And rebuild the whole.
I think it's a brand new structure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think when you start to remove insulation, it's definitely proposed as a new structure. It's worth looking at. Maybe you should look at. Let me just pull this up quickly. Because the height has always been proposed as a conforming to code height, I didn't anticipate that would be a objection, but it's worth. This might just give me. I put 1 second. Here we go. Let's pull up the pool house by itself. Oh, here we go. This is pretty helpful. I think this is the existing pool house right here, or writer studio, and proposed is, this might be it here. Yeah. You can see it has a real sloped roof. So the high point will be 14 feet. Most of it would be significantly lower than 14 feet. and it's a range, so the roof line, of course, it's not visible from Jack Forest's property, but it does slope in the direction you would hope for if that were the case.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know if there's any more to hear on this, Joe. I don't know where you stand, so we'll close the hearing. We'll take it to a vote.
I've heard some support and some opposition. It's possible we can work on it sounds as though the board might have no objections to 2 out of the 3 requested variances. I'm not really sure where the board lies on the pool house, but I have heard some comments that we could take into consideration to try to redesign it.
I think this.
I asked it to be left open for that reason.
Yeah, I think we've heard this. We've seen this application twice now. We saw it previously before you. I think we should close the hearing.
So you're going to refuse my request to leave the hearing open to redesign the pool house?
I might, yes.
Okay.
I might got to get a motion. So do we have a motion to close the hearing? Okay, so we're going to keep the hearing open. Okay. Jonathan, we're going to keep the hearing open.
Okay, great.
Okay. All right, so we'll wait for you to come back next time.
I'll speak to the applicant and see if there's anything we can do. I believe the objection was to the height of the roof. If anybody wants any other feedback, I'm happy to take it into consideration as well.
Okay.
If I could speak on that, I'd like to real quick.
Okay.
So the height of the roof basically just generated aesthetically trying to match the slope of the house. Another big issue was the existing pool house had a very low slope. And because the large bamboo wall that's on the property line on the neighbor's yard, we were getting a lot of the clients getting a lot of mold growth on the roof, which is deteriorating it. A lot of times during the snow and rain, the bamboo is actually laying on the pool house. So obviously increasing the slope was one way to prevent that growth and deterioration of the roof. I don't think the client would be hesitant to bring the slope down of the roof of the proposed design if that's what the board's looking for approval.
And can you show a comparison of the old and the new?
Sure.
When you come back, we can do that now.
Yeah, I'll share my screen. John, can you unshare your screen, please?
Yes.
So I'll actually, so this is the proposed design. And here's the existing. So one thing you can actually notice is that this ridge here on the property line, this is actually about 13 feet tall here, right on the property line. And because we switched the slope of the roof, this wall that faces the property line is actually about 9 feet. So the actual, wall that's next to the property line is lower, and then it slopes up away from the property line.
I thought the height was 11 feet.
Or excuse me, 11. Let's say 13. Sorry, 11. Sorry, you're right. It's 11 and whatever.
10.8.
11 plus feet. Yeah. Sorry, my apologies. Not 13 feet. 11 feet.
And I do notice with the redesign, it pushes a set of I'm assuming they're sliding glass doors towards the interior of the yard and not towards the house. That second set, if you're looking at the house to the right, which would also create additional noise to the neighbor in the back, which seems to be their main concern.
Well, so this is the existing. So they have sliding doors here, which is
that face directly side towards the house.
No, the actually house is here. Maybe this will help.
Yes, okay.
So that's actually, these doors are facing north. And so we have doors, these doors here, they're also facing north. And there is another set that's then facing the house. So it's not, we're not increasing openings.
What about walkways and patios? Is that all you're going to have?
Yeah, it's just going to be just grass. There may be some, I think actually the landscape, I believe he designed some gravel walkways around. Some pervious gravel walkways.
Outside shower?
Yes, there's an outside unenclosed outdoor shower that'll go on this side.
Wait, the side that's in the setback?
Here.
Right,
that's also in the setback, correct? Yep.
Correct.
And Chairman, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you were asking for is a side by side, right? To show the, what the new one is proposed is compared to the existing in terms of height. So
there's one more element, which is that the 1995 variance granted a 12-foot height.
Okay, but that's not what's there. So I think what the chairman was asking for is show us what's there and show us what's proposed. And let us take a look, side by side to see, and we'll judge what the impact is, if any.
Excuse me, this is Michael Kretschmar. May I speak?
You got to be sworn in, please, Michael.
Okay, thanks.
Let me swear you in. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Michael Kretschmar, 35 McGurk Street, East Hampton.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Kretschmar.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the board. I wanted to point out two things. And one, I'm asking Chris, perhaps you can show the location of the current shower, and then the board will see that that's right on the property line facing the forest property. And the proposed new shower location would be not on their property line. Right. The second thing I wanted to point out, and maybe Chris, you can highlight this as well, is that the existing cottage has a window on the property line that faces the forests. I don't think they hear any noise coming out of that, but one could argue that it's a passage for noise. That window goes away. So that makes the noise associated with their property line drop significantly.
That window may go away because you're taking out that part of the house. Are you saying that you would be willing to covenant that there would be no windows on that side at all?
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
Thank you.
A quick question, just in reference to that. Was that outdoor shower that exists, is that part of the approved original variance from 95?
I actually have that variance up. It doesn't look like it was on the plans. Who knows if it was built, when it was built. So I don't know if it's.
I'm just saying, so it's not, but that look, and thank you for pointing that out, that exists. I hadn't, obviously I didn't go see that shower back there, but so.
The only other thing I was thinking, which may help get a handle on the application, was if we could come back to you and show, because it occurs to me now that we're changing the pitch of the roof line, so that right now it would be beneficial to the neighbor, to Jack Forrest in the back, because we're gonna recede away from him as opposed to having the current roof line. I don't have the drawings in front of me to prove this, but we probably have less cubic footage of roof line by what we're proposing to do versus within 6 feet.
And if I could just reiterate, as Chris pointed out, the high point of the roof that touches the property line today is 11 feet. What we're proposing is the roof line on the property line will be 9 feet. And there will be no window, and there will be no shower on that side of the property.
Yeah, that's a good point, Michael, is that the peak of the roof, while we're proposing to move the structure 6.7 feet from the property line, that peak is what, maybe 11 or 12 feet from the property line, as opposed to right now it's up to it's less than a foot right now. So we're probably moving the peak, the maximum. Right now there's a 9-foot roof less than 1 foot from the property line. We're proposing a 14-foot roof somewhere around 12 or 13 feet from the property line, perhaps further. we can come back with a study on that to show you how much better it's getting.
Okay, so let's, I think we should keep this hearing open, obviously, until next week or next month. If you need more time, let us know. Any other business before the board? Okay, motion to close the meeting.
Motion to close.
Okay,
Second.
please.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Yep, have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.